My name's Evan. I used to work the late shift at a small convenience store just outside of town. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough for rent and the occasional weekend beer. The walk home took me through a quiet neighborhood, rows of tired houses, most of them dark by midnight. But what stood out every single night was that one streetlight. It sat right at the corner of Ashbury and Hillcrest, an old metal pole, humming and flickering like it was on its last breath. Sometimes it glowed with a pale orange light. Other times it blinked rapidly, as if it couldn't decide whether to die or keep going. Beneath it, there was always a shadow. Not someone, not something clear. Just a darker patch, unmoving, even when I passed by. For months I didn't think much of it. I figured it was a trick of the light, or maybe a stain on the wet pavement. But one night, after my shift ended at 2:13 a.m., the rain came down harder than usual. The roads shimmered like black glass. My shoes squelched with every step. And as I approached that corner, I noticed something different. The streetlight wasn't flickering anymore. It was steady, completely still. And beneath it stood a woman. She wasn't moving. She wasn't sheltering from the rain. She just stood there, head slightly tilted upward, as if looking right at the light. Her hair was long, soaked to the bone, and her coat clung to her like it had been painted on. I slowed down, hesitated, and told myself not to be paranoid. Maybe she was just waiting for someone. Maybe she lived nearby. When I stepped closer, the light flickered again. Once. Twice. And when it steadied, she was facing me. No movement, just facing my direction. I froze. I couldn't even see her face clearly through the curtain of rain. Only the faint outline of her eyes reflecting the light. It was too still. Too quiet. I turned and kept walking. Fast. My footsteps echoed against the wet road, and every instinct screamed that I was being watched. I didn't look back until I reached my apartment building. When I finally did, the streetlight was still there in the distance. But now it was off. The next night, I told my coworker, Josh, about it. He laughed, said I'd probably seen that crazy lady who wandered around the neighborhood sometimes. "She's harmless," he said, "just weird." But when I asked what she looked like, his face went blank. "She wears a gray coat, right? With black boots?" I nodded. "Yeah," he said after a moment. "Except she's been dead for almost 3 years." I thought he was joking, but he wasn't smiling. He told me about a hit and run that happened right at that corner. A young woman walking home from work, struck in the rain. They never found who did it. The driver disappeared. Ever since then, people reported seeing someone standing there under the light. "Maybe she's waiting for the car that never stopped," Josh said, "or maybe she's waiting for someone who reminds her of him." I tried to laugh it off, but it stuck in my mind all night. I'll show you why this horror story is truly terrifying. But first, leave a like, subscribe, and stay in the shadows. If you don't, well, you just might regret it. Now, here's the video. 2 nights later, I had the same shift. The rain started again just before I clocked out. I thought about taking the longer route home, avoiding that corner altogether, but it would add 20 minutes to the walk. My umbrella was broken, and I was tired. So I went the usual way. The air felt heavier that night. Even the sound of rain seemed muffled, like the world was wrapped in a thick blanket. When I reached Ashbury and Hillcrest, I saw the streetlight again, flickering softly. The puddles beneath it shimmered like mirrors. And there she was. Same gray coat. Same stillness. Facing away from me this time. I slowed down and tried to step quietly, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. I told myself, don't make eye contact. Just walk past. Keep your head down." But as I drew closer, she turned her head slowly, unnaturally slow, and looked over her shoulder. I could finally see her face under the light. Pale, water streaming down her cheeks. Her mouth hung open slightly, like she was trying to say something but couldn't. And then she whispered. It wasn't loud, not over the rain, but I heard it. "Why didn't you stop?" The words hit me like ice. I froze mid-step, every nerve in my body screaming to run. But before I could move, the light flickered violently. And she was gone. Not faded, not walked away, just gone. I sprinted all the way home, heart pounding, soaked through. I slammed my door, locked it twice, and sat there listening to the rain hammer against the windows. I told myself it was a hallucination, stress, sleep deprivation, anything but real. But then, around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. "Why didn't you stop?" I threw the phone across the room. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I went to the police. They brushed it off. No crime, no proof. They didn't even take the message seriously. Said it was probably a prank. But as I was leaving, one of the older officers stopped me at the door. He looked tired, cautious. "You said you saw her under the light, right?" I nodded. He sighed. "You're not the first." Apparently, every year around the same time, someone reported seeing her. Always during a heavy rainstorm. Always under that same streetlight. And every single one of them claimed they heard the same thing. Those exact words. "Why didn't you stop?" The officer leaned in closer. "Thing is," he said quietly, "most of those people ended up getting into accidents afterward. Car crashes, collisions. As if she's still looking for someone who never stopped for her." That night, I didn't walk home. I took a cab. But as we passed that corner, my heart stopped. The light was on again, flickering. And beneath it, the woman stood still, drenched, staring directly at the passing cars. When our headlights hit her, the cab driver gasped. "Jesus, did you see that?" he muttered. "Someone standing out there in the rain." I turned to look, but she wasn't there anymore. Just the streetlight, buzzing and dimming, as if it were breathing. I moved out a week later. I couldn't take it anymore, the feeling that every shadow in the rain was watching me. But sometimes, late at night, when the storm starts and thunder rolls across the sky, I swear I still hear her voice outside my window. Soft, broken, and close. "Why didn't you stop?" And every time, the lights in my room flicker, just like the one beneath that streetlight.